Welcome to the MMHP in the 989, channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history. Recorded live from the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame, located inside the Bay County Historical Museum.
From the city by the bay.
Featuring Dr. J, Fred Reif, Mr. Mike, and your host, Scott Baker. Brought to you by the 989 Podcast Network and the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame, located at the Bay County Historical Society Museum at 321 Washington Avenue, Bay City, Michigan.
Hey, our friends and family and fans here in the MMHP and the 989. This is our annual Hell's Half Mile 2024 version, behind-the-scenes information on the music and some of the films of the Film and Music Festival here in Bay City, Michigan. One of the most prestigious Sundance-style gatherings across the nation is right here in Bay City, Michigan, right in the heart of the homeland of our state here for the MMHP and the 989. The Michigan Music History Podcast is glad to bring you this information and give you a download of all the plans and procedures behind the choices behind the music. This year, of course, we have the man at the helm, Mr. Don Hessell, once again, giving the rundown on the bands and the choices and the performance areas, the places that they'll be playing at, as well as one of the originators, Mr. Jay Glysz, who is in the house. And we have a new guy, Mr. Spencer Biery here, who helped Don put this festival together this year. And all three are going to give their background and history, which is great this year, to give you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes from all the years at the HHM Festival. We want you to sit back, listen, and enjoy. We hope to see you this weekend as the MMHP will be joining the HHM in downtown Bay City.
Hey, welcome everybody. We're broadcasting once again from the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame, located at the Historical Museum of Bay County at 321 Washington Avenue, and we have three special guests tonight from the Hell's Half Mile Film and Music Festival 2024.
It's our third annual HHM Special.
I didn't realize you guys have done three.
This is the third one.
I did
right,
not
Don?
know.
That's right.
Are we counting?
I think it's three.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Who's counting, right?
Right.
Apparently not. Apparently
we're
not
going
me.
we got Jay here today to go all the way back with it all, so we can tell the whole
If you're
story.
relying on memories, it's gonna be tough, man.
We get the past, present, and future.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's new
Well,
with
we
the-
should introduce everybody
Okay,
first.
yeah, go ahead. All right, Spencer.
Hi.
You're brand new to us. You don't.
Yeah,
you can back away a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm new. I helped Don this year with some of the music selection, and then also help him with a little bit cleaning up the music venue.
Getting the building ready for it for Saturday night. It's a
What
process.
building? What building?
We're going to the Jefferson for Saturday Night Music,
Okay.
which is very interesting because it feels like a museum in itself. We're clearing out a full floor for it, and it's another one of those rooms that's funky, full of character and history. And when we do that for Hell's Half Mile, when we go into a new place, people show up because they're curious about it, but also it just adds atmosphere to the music itself, like the live show.
Spencer, how'd you get involved in this?
I've been coming to Hell's Half Mile for quite a few years, and I was at the Thursday night show, and Mitch Gill, who comes, he just starts talking to me, and you should meet, Don. She's the volunteer coordinator, and it kind of just took off from there.
Yeah, so it's nice to have Spencer on board because bringing in newer young people that some fresh ideas. It's exciting to have help with this.
This is the voice of your annual music master of HHM for the past few years, Mr. Don Hessell. How you been, Don?
Very good. Just been very busy. I feel like this year I'm sprinting from one thing to the next, but I'm really excited for this year's festival. Got a great lineup of bands, and it's very exciting.
I'm real interested in the Jefferson Building because Avram worked very closely with me and Miles Rosnowski and Nick Van Horn on putting everything up, framing a lot of the posters and photos that we have in the Hall of Fame. And when I went to the Jefferson Building for the first time, I said, Avram, you need to turn this into a disco. And of course, he was poo-pooing that idea, but I find it's going to be quite interesting to see it used as a live music venue. I'm real excited about Saturday night going over there and checking it out. Yeah, the building is really cool.
Yeah, it's going to take us a bit to get there, but Deon always has a vision of how to make a place funky cool. He's great with that, and it's going to have a great stage. It'll sound awesome in there, and visuals. I think just walking in before even the music plays, I always look around, like when we had it over at the warehouse and the Dunlop. People walk in and they're looking around, like, where am I at? And I love that.
And Deon, tell a little bit about him. He's always been behind everything since day one, pretty much, hasn't he?
Yeah. Deon's been around a long time as far as the music committee, long before I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Deon was around from the very beginning before he started getting super involved with the actual programming and things like that too. He was an electrician, so he would go into we were just starting to use, and they were just starting to use the Masonic Temple, so there was a lot of work that needed to be done electrically.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of cleanup too, which we also did, but Deon was the one that went in there and made that usable.
Voice of Jay Glysz, everybody.
Yeah.
All the way back here. We brought in a historical man here from HHM today.
Which was a terrible idea because my memory is awful, but I was part of the festival from the very beginning.
Well, thanks for coming, Jay.
Yeah, I'm glad to talk about this. I'm excited to be here.
Was the Masonic the very first music venue you used?
Yeah, and we used it right up until they figured out that they needed more time for the Halloween haunted house. So I can't remember which year it was that we ended up moving to the Scottish Rites. Yeah. So, but the first 7 years, I want to say, we were at the Masonic before we had to move out.
Yeah, the Masonic was where you had the artist that's my favorite so far, and that's the Matt Pond, PA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was perfect because you showed the film, Lebanon, PA, that they did the music for. In fact, we drove the director of that film from the airport to his bed and breakfast on Center Avenue and drove him back to the airport after the festival was over. It was really a lot of fun.
Crossover was always something we were shooting for. If we could get a doc about a band or an artist, if we could get them, that was always a thing that we wanted.
That was just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And the movie was excellent as well.
It's Poser with Damn the Witch Siren. That crossover was a great one too.
Oh, yeah.
I remember seeing Tone and Aisha there, and that was the first time I met Anthony Recca, and we've played numerous shows since then, just teaming up.
I was wondering whatever happened, because I actually was getting emails from Tone and Each still, after all these years still.
They reunited last winter
Yeah.
for a reunited show, but he's a solo artist mainly. But yeah, you guys brought in so much stuff that's gone on to get a lot bigger, you know.
So that was always the original idea, that it would be a film and music festival, or?
I wish that Alan was here to talk about this too. It was all sparked from one thing. Back in the day when Jennifer Granholm was the governor, there was a program called Cool Cities.
Yeah.
And they picked a handful of cities that they deemed cool cities, and each city was given like kind of an allotment, a fund that they were able to use to do something with, to try to like kind of go with the cool city thing. And I remember going to that first meeting, and there was just a bunch of people there. I think Al just invited a bunch of friends and people that he thought would be movers and shakers. And Hell's Half Mile wasn't even a thing yet. And so we all got together, like, what can we do with this money? How can we make Bay City cool?
Forgot about that.
And then so like the meeting broke up, and kind of Alan was always about, he really wanted to do a music and film festival, and he's had a lot of help. Don, everybody, Deon, Cole, his sisters, everybody that's involved with it. But really, Alan kind of made this happen with the will. He just made it happen. He wanted one. He thought we should have one, and he made it happen. Someone's got to get all that people together, the energy together to create that, and Alan did that.
Yeah, everything has to have a driving force.
So and so that was the thing that we talked about for a couple years, and then Alan decided, like, let's just do this. So we got a bunch of our friends together. We started meeting, like, what do we want this to be? What do we want this to become? What kind of music do we want? What kind of films do we want? And then it just kind of snowballed from there, actually. I love that 18 years later, it's now an adult. It's 18
Crazy.
years old finally.
Yes. Yes. And it seems to be more successful each year too.
Yeah. So we started doing it at the Masonic, and again, Deon did a lot of that work that made that doable for the bands to come in and use it. And then we started we were showing movies there too. Obviously, that was one of the venues for films, but he was also a big part of making that usable too for films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Dunlop came along too, and
Right.
this is the first year they won't be using Dunlop as is us. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But I feel like that's kind of almost a good thing with the festival too, is I feel like I like the little tweaks. I haven't been as involved in the last few years, but I like how the opening party is always kind of somewhere else. If you start to do stuff at the same place every single time, I think people get bored of it. So I kind of feel like we're almost like forced. It's almost like such circumstances has forced Hell's Half Mile to like kind of like not evolve, but like just take on different aspects, different ways to do things that we wouldn't have thought of before.
Well, this is the first year you're using the Bay City Players,
Yeah, absolutely.
which I think will be great. The one I don't know if I'd call it a drawback, but one of the really cool things about Hell's Half Mile
the walking.
is the walking.
Yes.
You can walk everywhere,
Yes.
and this would be the first year that really probably going to have to take a car to get to Bay City Players.
Yeah, I feel like that was. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that they were doing the Bay City Players. I
But I don't
haven't
think you
gone
had
to the
much
festival in a
choice,
while.
did you?
So-
We didn't know.
Yeah, so it was really close as far as we don't use the state, and had we had like a month more time, maybe we could have pulled it off. But they don't even have a projector yet. But it's going to get there, and I'm excited for next year. But Bay City Players is going to be used for opening night and closing night. Then we're going to go to the Masonic for our third film venue. Then we have So Good Gallery, and then of course the Delta Planetarium for other film venue.
Cool spaces all.
All
yeah,
of us, yeah.
I think
original.
so too. So I'm excited to see what Bay City Players is going to be like.
Yeah, me too.
We're going to do the reception there too. So we're going to stay there, do the reception there, and then the film.
Give lots of people opportunity to know where it is.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So then is J.W. Francis, is he still going to play at Old City Hall?
Yep.
So then the reception, the first film, and then you go to Old City Hall
Yep.
for the music. Okay, I see how that's going to work. All right.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Like you said, there's, it's not exactly walkable. We have people that fly in from all parts of the country, but we're going to be moving them around, get some transportation for those people that we fly in for Bay City for the fest. We got filmmakers, and so we'll transport them around back over to downtown, and from there everything is walkable.
Yeah, great. Actually, the museum has got the dry dock for Hell's Half Mile weekend.
Oh, perfect.
And
yeah.
we're excited about that. We've got Bobby Balderrama playing on Wednesday night. Our very own Scott Baker is going to play on Thursday and Friday, and we're working on something for Saturday, so that there's, because of the Hall of Fame, we wanted to have, at least some kind of a music component there. And, hopefully we'll get a lot of traffic with Hell's Half Mile, and it'll be another fun place for festival goers to go and have a drink or two and enjoy a few tunes.
Yeah.
We've had a couple bands there too. Like I remember at one point we had a couple different parties there, and we've had bands that played there. I think the
Yeah.
Hand Grenades were there one time.
Yeah.
Can't think. There's another Detroit, not the Prude Boys, but there was another trio I remember
yeah.
that played one time at the
Can't recall, but I remember
at
yeah.
the dry dock too. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's cool. There's going to be music though.
Yeah,
That is
neat
awesome.
space.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an exciting weekend in Bay City.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, originally, I thought you were saying where you originally didn't know because the state was closed at the time. You were like maybe putting the music back at the Masonic and all that area again, but before
were.
Jefferson came along.
Yeah, we were looking at that. It's just tough because we also need it for film venue.
Right.
We needed a third film venue. We have to really cut back on that. And we kicked around a few different ideas as far as music goes. And Avram, has a space for us. And it's just a matter of clearing out a whole floor full of antiques, which we all, Spencer and
Or
I
more.
and a good crew of us were hauling stuff into other rooms, and it's a lot. I haven't seen it in the last couple of weeks, but hopefully things are going well.
Did he move his bike from all of his bike collection from the gallery to Jefferson, or is it still at the gallery? Or do you have to move all the bikes?
So there's some bikes there.
He's a bike collector.
Oh, okay. Well,
Are all the records, are they on that floor? Because when I went up there, he had tons of records.
There's a bunch of shelves of records that are in there, but
Shelves?
there's a, yeah. He's got a
Well,
lot
you're
of
being
stuff.
pretty kind describing some of the stuff that's in the Jefferson as antiques.
Well, every
It's
time
more like junk.
well,
One man's junk.
Yeah.
Well, Alrum's like, we're trying to figure out what to move upstairs, and he goes, "No, I'm going to sell it. That's worth $1,500." I'm like, "This really?" But he knows stuff. He's familiar with this stuff more than I ever
Okay.
am, so I don't have a good perspective at all. And
Yeah,
I
he
trust
wants
him.
me to help in selling the records,
There you go.
but he hasn't called yet. So
Okay.
He's busy. Busy guy.
How many things have broke now, Spencer, as you've been moving? You think?
I think
Two couple.
I think just a couple.
Okay.
Yeah.
We broke a couple things,
Oh, darn.
but they're fixable.
Okay.
Yeah.
And not worth thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
What it'll be fine. Well, it's a mirror and a.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but
Bad luck.
I was, who broke that?
But then it also there's a separate mirror that matches it for it's part of a tabletop or so
Damn.
it'll be fine.
All right.
So
So there are going to be porta potties?
Yep.
Is that
So
the way
we're
you're going to
gonna-
have to do it?
yep. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna block off the side of that building and use a ramp to kind of come in and out. Every year, I think music venues always need a place for performance and then a place to chill where you can go back and forth. I mean, all the great venues that we go to, like down to L Club, you have an escape area where you can catch a breath with something you want to socialize, or if you want to go music, so you can go up the ramp. We'll have a place to sell beer there. We'll have the porta potties there, and it'll be pretty contained. I think we're gonna have a good crowd that comes out.
Oh, it's
And
always
so-
good for Saturday night music.
They
Always.
they show up, and it's amazing, especially when there's bands that people don't know. It feels good that either they've listened to it ahead of time and said, "Yeah, I want to check this out," or they just trust us, which is pretty cool in itself.
That's awesome. That's definitely one of the things that I've noticed is more and more the Friday night like warm up. And it's been lately at the
Michigan Table.
Is that still going on this
Yes.
year? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So Michigan Table's still going to be the little mixer, and then
Yep.
Saturday night's the home run. part of the
Yeah.
show. Okay.
And we've talked about adding different music throughout the day. Stuff at whether it's coffee shops or elsewhere. And we're open minded to doing something. We're going to stick it with the 5-band format that we've done the last few years, where opening night 1 band, Friday 1 band, and then 3 on Saturday. I think just don't overdo it. It makes every performance a little more special. I
Instead
think
of ramming it all together and
Yeah.
and too much of something.
sometimes I want more, but man, after the weekend, I'm exhausted from it. I don't know
Oh,
how we
I'm
do
sure.
Yeah, a lot of people
It's
also.
exhausting going to everything.
Yeah, say a lot of
You know.
people are in the movies too. They've got things to be at.
it.
And
Right. Yeah, exactly. We want to spread it out, and of course, a lot of great films this year, as always, and so they go hand in hand.
Hey Don, is your film in it this year?
Nope.
But you're on the road right now promoting one. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So films Shannon is Strange, and Jay actually plays a part in this film.
I am a walk on.
He's a
I am a run. I'm a run on.
Yeah.
He-
It's very memorable,
He's-
though, Jay.
it exists in the same
I
film
appreciate
that
that.
he
Thank you.
starred in, so it bridges the gap between the two. So it's
Well, you've
the same
always
world.
said that with every movie you made, you want to connect the universes from movie to movie
Exactly.
to have some kind of something that passes through that's familiar from the films previous, which I love that.
Yeah.
Creating your own little universe.
So Alan and I, this is our second film together, and we took a lot of elements of things that we love. It's a very music-focused film. Has Michigan artists like Lightning Love and the Blue Flowers, and of course Jordan with his source of light and power. Is that right? Power and
Yeah.
Light? Yeah. So he contributed a ton there, and he did the score on it. And then Shannon Hardy, she's amazing. Everybody keeps asking, they're like, "Wow, where did you find all your talent? Like all these, these actors?" And I'm like, "Well, they're just. I feel like they're just being themselves, and that's really when you get a great performance. There's no stretch with it. But it's gotten into 18 film festivals so far.
Oh, that's really good.
And this last weekend, I was in North Carolina and had an amazing time. It was a sold-out screening. And this coming weekend, we're actually playing in Birmingham at the Royal Star Film Festival. So this is our Michigan premiere.
Good for you.
So
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Maybe next year we can have it here, huh?
Oh,
or is it beyond that?
No, we're not going to ever put it at our festival. It's a
okay.
conflict
I
of
didn't know.
interest. Yeah,
I don't
but
know how that works. So
we're going to do a screening here. And we did one screening already. We're going to have a second screening here. And I had this idea just the other day of doing a double feature. So we can do Eugene and Shannon is Strange. What do you think of that, Jay?
I'm down.
All right.
I've been angling
completely
to
down.
get it for our little theater
oh, cool.
downstairs too. After you do all your stuff, and
Yeah.
Don is very possessive of his art. He's
yeah.
very careful at first
Okay.
of where it goes.
Yeah,
And
we
he holds it close to
we
his
show
chest.
great respect
and-
for all the films
Yeah.
we show in the Robert and Ann Hatchell Theater.
Yeah.
And since it has a Michigan music connection, it's a natural for our theater.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll
for sure.
keep bugging you about it, Don.
Yeah, we'll get it in there.
So
He says non-committally. No,
At some point.
That's not true. It's not true.
So give us a little rundown of this year's talent for the music portion of the HHM, Don, as you normally would.
So we got things kicking off on Friday night with J.W. Francis from New York. First heard about him, he was doing this little small venue backyard tour, a bedroom tour all around the country, and somebody got a line on him and got him to Bay City over at the art department in the basement there.
Really?
And it just floored me. And what I really loved about it was all these young people came out for original live music, and everybody's dancing their ass off. It was so much fun. He toured around the country some more, and he played the Blind Pig. I went down for that show. Every bit of ages represented there, and the guy's he's just a groovy guy. He plays this lo-fi bedroom pop. The guy's so full of energy that if you go to his show and you are just not picking up on this and getting off on his music, there's something wrong. What do you think, Spencer, as far as J.W. France, you get a...
Yeah, he's pretty fun. Is he going to do like the spoken word interludes?
I'm kind of curious about that. He's very unpredictable. He's very in the moment type of guy. But I think this will be special. When we did the reveal party and we were announcing the bands, there was two in particular that everybody cheered for, and everybody cheered for J.W. Francis. And I'm like, y'all know who he is? I was exciting, So,
What was the other one?
well,
Liquid Mike.
Liquid Mike, that one of all.
There we
So
go.
that's our Saturday night, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal for Michigan, and what these guys are doing in creating a name for themselves, we're floored by that too. They're from what's that town?
Marquette.
I think what Mike is floored by the attention that they have gotten in the last year.
Oh,
I remember that little Rolling Stone clip then too.
yeah. So what was that quote? I thought I had that here. So Rolling Stone said, "Liquid Mike are the best Midwestern indie rock band fronted by a mailman you'll hear all year." And so they were on Stereo Gum's list of bands to watch. They've been contacted by other bands for opening up on bigger tours. And my God,
They're opening for the Menzingers. That's
Incredible.
serious. They're a huge band.
yeah.
Good.
But some, when you listen, their songs are all short bangers. 2-3 minute songs at
Yeah,
most.
that's what impressed me. I mean, they're going back to, like the Ramones, going back to the short songs.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, I just met Mike for the first time a couple weeks ago. He was actually at the Electric Kitsch, and I told him because I bought the first CD and then I bought the self-titled. Was that last year? And I put it on, and it's the first record in a very long time that I literally listened to like 10 times in a row. Because as soon as I started getting into it, like, this is awesome, and then it was over. I had to flip the side, like, this is awesome. I got to flip it over again. I'm like, all right, this is what we're doing, I guess.
Yeah.
So like, it's catchy stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're a fan like of Guided by Voices and things like that, this is a band that will probably appeal to
Yeah,
you.
very guitar heavy too,
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
but
yeah.
in a pop way.
For sure.
It's
Oh yeah,
really-
their stuff is super catchy.
Yeah, they got
Doesn't
the
it
hooks.
have a local drum connection too?
Cody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're kind of fortunate that he plays drums on halftime when they're out touring.
Okay.
There's somebody else that fills in, so you can only do so much. But I think we're definitely very proud of what they're doing and excited. That was the first band we booked, So it was we just sat down and listened. We brought in a handful of bands to listen to, and we had a little listening party. And Spencer, Deon, and I, and we're like, it was a no-brainer. This is the first band for sure. And we'll build around it.
Is Cody going to be on drums for the show? Do you know?
Absolutely, 100%.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
I haven't seen him in forever.
Is that the process you always use for selecting bands? You kind of have a listening party and kind of do a decision as a group as to this would be.
We try to, but it's not always easy to get everybody in a room. Sometimes we're just tossing things back and forth. I mean, I think about last year. I'm like, I find a band, I really like it. And I'm like, Jay, check out this band. Are these guys great? Crowdy Guns and Tanning. What do you think?
Am I wrong about this? Do I love these guys? Is this right?
Is this right? Because like you're like,
yeah.
I fucking love these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that was Sungaze this year.
Yeah, Sungaze this year. I was like, I've been listening to these nonstop. I can't stop listening to this band. Is this just me? You know. And then Spencer gives a listen. It's the same thing. Everybody, like, what do you think? Shoegaze, or is this going to fit our audience?
Yeah, that new album of theirs is really well produced.
Really
you know, it sounds like, you know, if you listen to their early stuff, it's this album where everything kind of came together and crystallized into probably what they're going to be maybe from now on. Yeah, they're going to be real good. Are they going to close, or have you decided the order yet?
They're opening Saturday night.
Oh,
I feel like
okay.
they're a good way to ease things into it. Then we have Waltzer from Chicago, and it's a 4 female female fronted band, and they're kind of an indie rock, a little grungy, a little bit of doo-wop in there. It's just a mixture. What's the best way to describe them? You think?
Yeah, I'd say that's how I describe them too. Like I was listening to one song, it's like this almost sounds like it's out of the 50s.
Yeah, and they're very danceable as well at times. But the interesting thing is, I've been trying to get them since 2021. Well, we had the band Ganser in here for 2021. They lost one of their front people, and Sophie Sputnik, who's fronting Waltzer, took over that spot in Ganser. So she's doing her own band. Like I know, is that a real name? Was she born with Sophie Sputnik? It's a badass name. But
I don't think it is.
Chicago, right?
Chicago,
Yeah,
right? So we're
goes.
Yeah, we're very excited to get them here. You know, it'll be a fun night.
Outstanding. And Spencer, tell us, you were involved in some of this music thing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little more of your perspective of the whole thing.
Yeah, it was really interesting. You know, going to the festival. Usually I go in blind to kind of just kind of look at the bands real quick and then go. But then this time, like actually like digging into the bands and kind of helping decide which ones come. It's been kind of cool to see behind the scenes.
And this is your first year doing that?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So were you directly involved in selecting Bluhm as one of the artists?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it.
Yeah, it was one of those things that threw back and forth because we needed, for Friday night, Michigan Table, the sound in there, synth pop just works better, and it works better for it's a party, it's a filmmaker party,
Yeah.
So something that's fun and danceable, but also the sound in there. I think
It
a lot
bounces all over the place.
it bounced
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
over, and if we had a lot of heavy guitar and drums, I think it gets such muddy sound in there.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we were going for, but.
Well, they're kind of the veteran band of this lineup, right? I was looking at, I couldn't believe how
Been
many
around a
albums
while.
they had out. How long have they been together?
Honestly, I'm not exactly sure. I feel like it's been the last. Well, they got a lot of, I think, singles and EPs as
Oh,
well.
okay.
So, I mean, at least about 5 years has it been?
I was thinking
Oh,
about that,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, they've been around a bit, but I think it's nice to get Detroit represented. There's so much great music there.
Mhm.
We've always had a lot of good luck. And then going back to Sungaze, it's Cincinnati. We are so lucky with that town.
We've got numerous cool bands from
It's
Cincy for
crazy.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the places we look. We look in the Midwest where it's easier to travel here.
Mm-hmm.
We looked at Toronto and we looked throughout Michigan and just trying to get a blend of different genres and vibes, feels, everything.
Well, that's a pretty good hike from Marquette to Bay City.
It is.
For Liquid Mike, have those guys been touring around?
They've been jumping on a couple different tours and doing shows individually themselves.
I know they did. I think they were. I don't know if they ended. Last time I talked to Cody, who is their drummer, our friend Cody, who's from Bay City, and he was saying they were doing some stuff with Military Gun. They would do these kind of like little short East Coast spurts where they would do a few weeks. But again, I'm not sure how many of those Cody made it to with his job, whether he was able to make it or not. But they've been consistently being able to get time off to do these little kind of mini East Coast tours. So yeah, they're on the road quite a bit actually.
How did Cody end up hooking up with these guys from the UP?
He went to college up there.
Oh,
and he met
Northern
Mike.
Michigan.
Yeah, he met Mike. He met Mike up there. And I remember when he went up there and he was like, yeah, I met this guy. All he does is play music and he records music and he just records song after song after song. I remember him telling me about it. He was so happy that I guess he found somebody they can get up there and they can. I mean, there's probably not a lot to do up there in the winter, I imagine.
Right.
So he was probably jacked to have somebody musical to hang out with. But it's probably, I feel like that's probably a pretty cool town more than I know. I've never really been up there before.
Well, it's
too.
college town.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
probably an island
Yeah.
of sanity in the UP.
But I feel like any area, whether it's Seattle or Minneapolis, when you're like put in by the weather and you can't do anything, you be creative, you know. So we met Mike when he was going to school up there, and he was telling me about him a few years ago, and I'm like, I love that. Because Cody is one of my favorite drummers, and I'm not saying that because he's a friend of mine. He's just really fun to watch, and he's played with one of the times he played the festival. He played drums for Andy Reid, which is hands down my favorite Andy Reid set of all time. And then he played. We got Queen Kwong here one time, and him and his friend Elise, who we both played in a band called Yum when they were very young out of Bay City. They both played for Queen Kwong as well, and that was super cool to see him play for like a big act like Queen Kwong. And Wes Borland is standing there too, and that was just surreal that Wes Borland was in Bay City. That was crazy.
And I was talking to Cody, and I'm like, how does somebody be a mailman and be able to tour? And they're like, the post office is like really cool with him, and they allow him to do this. They're proud of the fact that he's got something going. They just work around his schedule. I'm like, great.
And that is just a great rock and roll story. I mean, how many rock and roll mailmen do you know?
Right.
And there's probably more out there than we probably know, but we haven't heard their story, but now we have one.
Well, a rock and roll mailman that can keep his job as a mailman.
They keep his job too.
Yeah. I mean, somebody may have been a mailman, but had to give it up. He's got a pretty good gig there.
Yeah, he had to choose between rock and roll and delivering the mail, but yeah.
Yeah. But, I think what's really been neat with Hell's Half Mile is just we have this, we create this history of all these different bands, and they kind of pass through our lives, but then we hold on to them and follow them and see what they do. And, mentioned Karate Guns and Tanning. They got a new album coming out, which I just can't wait for. I can't wait for them to get back here. But we're excited for these artists. I mean, Rap Boys from 2 years ago. Oh. Holy shit, they
took
on
off
fire
this year with that new record,
Yeah, and even Weekend Friends has got a little bit of buzz about them, and they headlined last year, one of my favorite bands in the world right now. And I feel like there's a couple of bands that we've had in the last few, that you guys have booked in the last few years, that I feel like they're this close, they're going to take off and go, remember when they played Bay City? Like, we're going to have a couple stories here that you guys booked bands for that. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
It's cool seeing all this stuff grow. Totally. It's like Rap Boys was the first one where I latched on to follow because I knew something was going to happen, and that new record hit. It was immediately in my Cubas, like my new listens of the week, which is really unusual. Like they would pick an indie like that. They've picked indies, but usually it's something left field. And I'm like, well, hell, I forgot that was coming out. So that was like my album of the week for like a month.
It's so great.
And then all of a sudden they're on Wilco's list, and they're on tour in the West Coast, and they're doing all sorts of stuff.
Open for the Decemberist tour.
Yeah.
They're good. Yeah, they're doing very well.
Because I talked after last year when they got done with their set, the lady that sang for them, I can't remember her name.
Mm-hmm.
She was talking to me about finding a venue around here so she could have something solo to come up and play.
Let's do it.
So I offered her, I'm like, well, if I can put something at Scotty's or somewhere around, but or BMO's or whatever we got to do, and we never made a connection. She's like, we're gonna go and do a record, so hang on, and so that time may come where she maybe will pop up here too. But she's something else. She's a magnificent songwriter, front person.
Yeah, saw him this past year at the Blind Pig as well, and they played with what was the name of that band they were touring with from Canada that we love?
Terrible name, Ducks Limited.
Oh yeah,
Ducks Ltd.
Yeah, Duxlow. Yeah, and we actually almost got them for this year. I was in chats with them, and we just couldn't lock in have them here. But that's another amazing band. But those two fit together so well. It was a filled up venue. Everybody was getting off on the music. It was nice to see the appreciation for live music down there at the Pig.
Is there any music movies this year that we need to talk about that tie in with any of these, or even music movies period that we could talk since we're a music podcaster?
Let me think.
Tallywhacker's on there.
Oh yeah, Tallywhacker. Yeah, Tallywhacker, and I think there was one other one. Yeah, that one is
Tallywhacker. I've read something about it. Refresh my memory.
It's like this 2-person band, and it sounds like one person in the band gets pulled into someone else's tour, but the other person doesn't, and it kind of is some drama, but it's mostly like a comedy.
Oh,
It one of the clips in it almost reminded me of like Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
Where she's like, "Oh, I can't imagine myself sleeping with you," and he's like, "Oh, I can imagine it for the both of us."
Good line.
Good. But there is a film about a podcast that goes a little haywire. It's called Sydney. It's by this great Michigan filmmaker, Jeremy Berkowitz, and we've had a couple shorts from him in the past. But for podcast fans, I highly recommend this.
This is a feature?
Yeah, and it's his world premiere that he's having here. So he's going to bring the whole cast and crew up. That'll be a good time. I'm excited for him because his writing and his style of things that he does is very unique. I mean, I feel like he's doing original stuff in the same way that Joel Petroikis, who also has a film here from Grand Rapids, is just writing very original stories that stand out and leave their mark on Michigan. So and beyond, of course. Joel's film played Vulcan is Dezora is the name of the film. Actually premiered at Tribeca this year.
Oh,
So
And people know him. I mean, he's
They
from. I
know
mean, if you're an
all over
indie
the
like
place.
film fan, people know who Joel is. I mean, he's a pretty famous indie filmmaker.
yeah, and very very talented guy. He's always pushing the limits and doing original stuff, and very proud of him.
speaking of podcasts, Lightning Licks podcast, Jay, give us a little rundown on your podcast. How long have you guys been doing that now? This is cool.
I want to say 4 years, which doesn't seem real. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't even remember.
And this is with Deon.
It's been
from
so long.
HHM as
Deon,
well.
who's he's a good friend of ours in life, and he's also an HHM guy from the very beginning. And we started doing a music podcast as well, but we're not Michigan based like you guys are. We just music geeks like to talk about the stuff that we love, and
sure.
maybe hemmed. We just do what we do, and we put out a couple episodes every single month, and we're just doing it because we love it. It's the same reason anybody does podcasts, because they love it. And I'm not making it. No one's making any money on this, right?
Absolutely not, no.
So our podcast is called Lightning Licks Radio, which is an extension of Lightning Licks. That's a whole thing. We won't get into all that here, but it's called Lightning Licks Radio. It comes out twice a month. It's thematic. I mean, we do the first episode of the month. We usually do pick a theme, like our favorite side one, track ones, favorite like side project, favorite B-sides. So we have a theme for everyone, and then we alternate it with a letter, because we started running out of ideas. So we started figuring we'll do a letter every other episode. We'll do a letter, and then we'll pick a band. I just put out the new episode yesterday. Deon just finished it, and I put it out, and we did the letter K. So we didn't talk about the Kinks or the Knack or Gladys Knight. We try to keep it a little more obscure, stuff that people might not have heard of. So we're not.
That's awesome.
I mean, what can you say about the Kinks at this point that somebody hasn't already said?
Well, tease us. Who, are you going to tell us who the K is?
Well, no, I mean, I guess I should explain the format of the thing. So basically, we have so we did K. Deon comes up with 5 K artists / bands, and I come up with 5. And then we talk about each band, each artist, how we know about them. If we have stories, how we discovered them. And after we get done talking about it, we kind of put a mixtape together. We pick a song from each band, and then we do a mixtape that we tack on to the end of the podcast, so you can hear all the stuff that we've already talked about. I don't know how legal that is. and we're not
gonna ask you about
monetized.
that.
No, we're not monetized. And there's another local podcast. Can't remember, something to do with nachos, dipping nachos or something. And they were talking about our podcast, and they were like, it's a local podcast. And like, I don't know how they get away with it, with, having the music, because it's full of music from the very beginning. There's all sorts of stuff in the weeds that Deon does, and it's cool. But they can't do anything. We don't get paid for it.
Yeah, it's non-profit.
So we're not monetized. So it's not like any other playlist that people put on Spotify.
When I go on YouTube with these, and we have artists that perform, as well as the music, which I just use my own music usually as the beds. It copyright flies. It'll say Scott Baker songs on here, or it'll say you played a cover of Mamas and the Papas song in your set, and it'll tell you all the little tags. But only YouTube does that. And they see copyright control, then it'll say artist has already given permission to use, and I imagine someday it might not be the case, but I haven't had that issue yet. But every show gets copyright now because my stuff's all of a sudden flying up there. But like we have some dudes that do just straight covers. We bring them in for their original stuff. They play as cover tunes, and it's like, oh well, we're gonna put it on there. So
well, the funny thing is you guys can edit this out if you want to. If it's not part of this, you can just edit it out later. But I thought you guys would get a kick out of this. So we actually had recently. We were contacted by Death Row Records, and we had one of our alphabet episodes was when we did G. We called it Nothing But a G Thing, and that must have sent up a flag.
Oh,
so Deon does all of like he's kind of the engineer. He does all of that stuff. I just show up and I just do my thing. But I don't know if you got an email or whatever saying like a cease and desist kind of thing. But they ended up taking it down. They ended up taking the whole episode down. And so Deon kind of had to reconfigure it and kind of get around it. So we were able to get it back up. But that is that
just because the title of the episode?
Yeah, and it must have threw up a red flag somewhere.
wow.
And like you wouldn't think anybody in Bay City, like somebody from Death Row, like I don't know how you come up. I'm a total tech tard, so I don't know.
That's exactly how it happens.
The interwebs and all this, it's all that thing. Like I don't know how they find that stuff, but I'm like, so that was like kind of our whole thing is like that we were taken down by Death Row, and I'm just glad that Suge Knight didn't like lean me out of a balcony by my ankles, or Deon. I'd hate to see that happen.
Yeah. We don't hear from you guys for next year, so
so
we'll search for it in the archives.
Yeah, so we just do our thing, and then the second episode, which has actually turned in one of our fun stuff, and a couple people at this table have been on it. We do a bonus episode where we just, because we're not able to talk about stuff that we're just currently getting into, like everything is so thematic, and so we're in that theme. But this gives us the opportunity to just talk about stuff that we're just currently just digging, that we're listening to, whether it be old stuff or new stuff we just discovered. And we bring in a friend, we call him our super special secret friend, and then we find out what they're listening to. They bring 4 offerings to the table, and we talk about why they're listening to it and stuff. And we've had Scott, and I actually want to get you on the show.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great.
Sure.
I'm gonna put you on the.
It doesn't have to be Michigan. I love everything.
No, I know you don't. I know you do. I should have said that up there. But I figure since we have here and we're recording, I'm gonna go ahead and put you on the spot.
Okay, sure.
You can say no though. That's what I do. But yeah, that's our podcast. I mean, that's what we do.
I think
just music nerds talking about records. Basically,
that's where all the best referrals come from. Is when your friends that you really trust in music. Mention bands that you've never heard of, and then just take a deep dive. I mean, yeah, you can go in there, you go into Spotify and stuff, but when it comes to recommendation, like the band that I just started listening to that I've seen the name around, but Fontaine's DC.
Yeah, Fontaine's DC.
Holy crap, I love that band.
Right new album's really good.
It's phenomenal.
Floors me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so good.
I just read where they got on the wrong side of Liam Gallagher.
I saw that online today too. Yeah. There's a little bit of a spat going on.
Yeah, we go.
Where do you listen to your new stuff, Gary? You're tuned right into what these guys listen to.
Well, I belong to Apple Music now.
Don, what do you listen to?
And yeah, they have everything.
I go all over the place. There's certain. I mean, I do Spotify in terms of just checking out music, but I don't.
I'm amazed at how tuned in the generations are here. This is cool. Gary always is way ahead of me on this shit. So I'm
always kind of blown away too.
The All. Have you guys ever go on All Music, the All Music site? I mean, they they turned me on to a lot of interesting stuff.
I like to read the reviews there too.
Yeah,
the reviews
that's
are always
right.
real good there
I
too.
check on that every Friday.
It's a lot less
see what's on
pretentious
there.
than like.
Yeah.
I wrote a lot of those.
Did you?
Cool.
All the Detroit blues guys.
Oh, I got to go back and read some of those too. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love their reviews because it's not like when you what's the big trendy Pitchfork. It's not like super like pitchforky. These
I
are
don't
just
like
people again who
Pitchfork.
just love music. They're not trying to put all the words in there, all the fancy words that they know. This is
Yeah.
the music and this is why we love it. And it's a little more user friendly than I think Pitchfork is.
Jay, you're very record collecting, and which is most of us here.
Yeah, we all are music geeks.
Tell me what you use though to do some skimming on the net. What's your
Honestly,
output?
I saw a meme a few months ago, and it was a young girl. I don't know if it was a Twitter post or whatever, and she made a comment about old guys drinking whiskey and watching YouTube. Almost all the new music I discover
Is on YouTube?
is YouTube.
That's
and
how I
and
do
then
it
I
a
start
lot,
getting
too.
on there, and then you start to get all the recommendations, and that can be a Pandora's box you don't want to open.
Well,
But none of
YouTube
the
is
time you do.
unbelievable, not only for new stuff,
Yeah.
but some of the most obscure records
Yeah.
going back to the dawn of rock and roll.
Can I say,
Wow, it's unbelievable.
talking about YouTube, I just want to bring this up. So we've been doing the podcast probably for about 5 years now. And so the process that we do is I will pick my 5 songs, Deon will pick his 5 songs, and we'll send each other the YouTube link so we can hear, because we usually will sit together and listen to them before we record, but we kind of want to have an idea of what we're getting into before we actually meet up. There has not been there's probably, as long as we've been doing the podcast, I think there's probably been like 2 things that hasn't been on YouTube, and we get pretty obscure too, but all of it's out there.
Yeah,
Almost all of it's
it's
out there. It's
amazing.
incredible to me.
Spencer, how do you get your input?
I've been lately going on Bandcamp and Spotify.
I'm a
for the
Bandcamp
most part.
user. I have Cubase, which is my purchase. So instead of Apple, I've gone that route. I will not support Spotify. I just don't go there.
I won't do it either.
That's just as a musician it's for me. But definitely use Bandcamp all the time. Like that's my independent outlook, and they have a lot of cool front page stuff, which is not always formidable to what like we're discussing, but like it goes every kind of music is in that.
Right.
Well, and you can
Which is
listen to
very world.
everything
Yeah.
that the 5 artists are playing at Hell's Half Mile. I mean, you can go through their whole catalog
Yeah.
on Bandcamp.
On Bandcamp,
Yeah.
right?
It's
I
amazing.
thought we talked about
That's
that
what I
last
was
year.
listening to before
Yeah.
the show
Right.
after, just kind
That's
of
so
going
cool.
through.
And
the 5
if
bands
you
work.
like it, wait till Friday and buy it on Bandcamp Friday, because if you buy stuff on Bandcamp on Fridays, the band gets the money for that. They get
First
paid,
Friday
they
of the
get-
month,
They get
usually.
paid for that. So yeah.
And the last Friday was the first one of the year for the season.
I thought it was every Friday.
It's just the first Friday of the month, and it's only specific. They took summer off. Like the last one prior to that was April. Then there was none in May, June, July.
You know why?
What do
'Cause-
they do the rest of the month? Then
It's just one day a month. Usually the first. They started it during COVID, the first Friday of the month, and they did it every month through COVID. But then starting 2 years ago, they started skipping summers. Don't know why. Don't know why they skipped the
It
summer.
got taken
Well,
over by
what's
another
what's
company,
the
though.
payoff for the rest of the time?
It's
Is it like
if you get a
Apple
$10, it's way better. If you get a
Okay.
$10 record, you're bringing home about $8.90 to $9.10, depending on where it's
Really?
at.
Way better than
But
streaming.
on the day, like they'll take their first cut for placing it, which is like 20 cents. But everything throughout the day comes in 100% on Bandcamp Friday, so you collect the entire fee. Goes right to your PayPal or bank account, which
Wonder
is
how
why
they can keep going. How are they making money?
it's got to be
through
ads or
advertising.
however they're doing.
Yeah.
They got a new.
Well, you
got a
have
new
to get on the
people,
YouTube because they just were taken over by somebody else. And I was watching a video earlier this year, and Anthony Fantano was talking about how the people that are taking it over are making it a lot less user friendly and a lot less cooler than it used to be. And people are pretty. I don't know who bought them out. And then if you Google it, you can probably find out the whole story. But I've heard tell that
There is one.
the
cool
new
thing.
changes are not as good as before.
One cool thing that did come out with those, they decided to take taxes out for big artists like that want to get on. Like Sonic Youth is doing their back catalog and unreleased live shows. Like certain bands are going, well, look, this is perfect, and they don't have to get taxed anymore on what they're doing as a record company because Bandcamp's just taking care of it right off the bat, so everything's a direct fee. So you put yours up for 12, you're going to get 10, that kind of thing, depending on what it is. But yeah, they're doing it. They got tons of stuff on there now. It's a whole other world on Bandcamp. It's definitely blew up in the last few years.
Well, I think what Fantano was saying was that they were kind of almost using it. hate to say this, as a clearinghouse for soundtrack music. I think they were trying to get a library of music together that people who were making films, whatever, would come to Bandcamp looking for a certain sound or a certain song or a certain thing. So they're kind of almost like a middleman for, I guess, for cinema at this point. I mean, if I understood the story correctly.
Well, boy, that's a big break for any band that can get a song
Yeah.
on a commercial or in a film or a TV show.
Yeah.
It's a
Jim
big,
O'Rourke's
big
huge
break.
on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Like that's someone that
Yeah.
Jay and I listened to. He used to play, in Sonic Youth and produce Wilco, and the dude just does soundtracky stuff in Japan now, and everything he does is front page news on Bandcamp. Like it's a huge thing, so I can see that because a lot of times it is very soundtrack oriented that comes into the feed. Yeah. Where do you go for your music now, Fred? Just still digging the archives? You're the picker.
Well, probably YouTube.
Yeah.
You
spend
know,
a
I
lot
have to do a pick of the week every week.
Yeah.
So I
Come
go
on, you love it, Fred.
So I've look at other things.
You've had some both of you guys have had some fantastic ones lately. There's some good stuff going on.
Well, sometimes I can't believe what's on YouTube.
And more and
Some
more
of
every
these
week.
old things, I'm going, wow,
Yeah.
Washboard Willie?
I was talking to Daniel Alston last week, and he's like, dude, there's something new. If you keep your eyes on YouTube for certain older artists, there's something will pop on and go off real quick. So you got to be fast in your searches. But he's like, he's using it
Well,
hard, trying to track down every little clip that can go on there for certain bands.
yeah, I type in Lazy Lester sometimes, or Lightning Slim, or my name,
Mm-hmm.
and I find things on there that I go, wow, how did that get on there?
That's cool, man.
Like a concert we did in Finland.
Huh.
There it is.
That's cool, Fred. I love that. YouTube's brilliant for just
yeah, it's
nitpicking at
amazing.
night. And I'll sit there at night with whiskey and just browse YouTube.
All day, for hours. On a Saturday night, glass of whiskey, and I'll just sit there and listen to music all night long.
Well, and then you can go off on these little sidetrack. You get sidetracked.
And you do.
You're listening to something. Oh, that looks good. And you get into that. And you're going in a totally
rabbit
different
holes.
direction.
Yeah. YouTube rabbit holes.
Yeah, YouTube has been terrible for my bank account. It has. Because all the suggestions are usually right on, too. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do like that. Thank you.
Well, for anybody listening to our podcast today, we're definitely Hell's Half a Mile oriented, but we have a music table, as always, full of music and film lovers and music historians and record collectors. So you get a little bit of everything. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet, Don, for this year in 2024 that people need to know about for HHM?
Well, I think we mentioned the venues. So the Masonic is going to be used for films throughout, the weekend.
Tell them the dates.
So, September 26th through the 29th. We got an opening night film over at the Bay City Players, and our closing night on the 29th at the same place. Delta Planetarium through the week, or through the fest, and then So Good Gallery. So we're mixing it up between the three film venues, music venues, of course, Old City Hall, Thursday night, Thursday night, Old City Hall, Michigan Table, Friday night, and then Jefferson, that's right. Jefferson on Saturday. So, we're spread around town. I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot of different guests coming in town, film-wise, and that's always exciting.
Yeah.
These people that come to town, it's I always hear this, a lot of the same stuff. There's like, even people from Detroit will go, we didn't know you guys were cool.
Yeah.
We surprise them.
What happened to that cool city sign?
Yeah.
Did somebody take that down?
And so people,
I mean,
right.
I should be there.
So people come in from all over the country, and they've gone to some pretty amazing festivals, and they're like, you guys don't realize what you have here is pretty special. We're also a Midwest town, which Midwest towns, we're a little bit hungry compared to East and West Coast. I feel like we're hungry for this stuff. We're, we got a lot of amazing original music here, but I feel like we always need more. Same with films. We need more independent films in town, and be able to bring that, feels pretty good.
I think another great thing about HHM that doesn't come up a lot is the time of year. The end of September seems to be
Yeah.
just warm enough, but not quite cold enough. But nobody's sweating their ass off, and nobody's too freezing if it's cold. And it's one of those things where you can walk the streets. It's, I mean, sometimes it's raining, but it's usually like mellow.
Yeah,
It's
we're
like,
hoping for no rain.
no rain.
All right.
No rain
And
chance.
go to the dry dock during Hell's Half Mile.
Have a drink at the dry dock.
The
Celebrate.
museum needs the money.
Yeah, we'll be down there playing in between everything. So
Yeah. It's going to be fun. Lynn and I look forward to Hell's Half Mile every year.
Yeah.
We've got those 4 days set aside.
well, Spencer and Don and Jay,
Yeah,
thank you for
thank
coming
you
on the
guys.
show.
Thank you so
Man,
much.
thanks
For
for
putting
having
this
us.
thing together. I
having
mean,
us.
man, it's one of the real cool things about Bay City is the film festival.
We love it. So appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
On behalf of our hosts, this podcast wouldn't be here without generosity of the Bay City Historical Museum, which hosts the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. We'd also like to thank all of our guests and especially to the listeners. The MMHP is found at 989.network or where all podcasts can be found. You can find updated information as well as Dr. J and Sir Fred's Picks of the Week on Facebook. Also on Facebook, check out Mr. Mike's Local Music Live series and Scott's Mid-Mitten 15 from Harvest Canteen Studios, featuring one-on-one interviews with Michigan music artists. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, and Mr. Mike on YouTube as Mr. BT1. That's MRBTEE and the number 1.
On behalf of us hosts, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and myself, we'd like to thank Mr. Eddie Switek, the voice of the MMHP and the 989.
They'll make it that it's about a Texan radio station.
Is it a feature?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Was it good?
I liked it
Okay.
just because it was all about music.
Was it called Texas Radio and the Big Beat?
Exactly.
Is it called Texas Radio and the Big Beat? That's the first thing. That's what it should be
Said
called. Yeah.
It was some station that played Texas country music.
Yeah. We had over 500 film submissions, and it's so hard just sending out these rejections, these filmmakers. And we have enough great films this year where I think we could have easily programmed 3 great festivals with our submissions. And it's tough, but it's a very competitive year. I mean, you hear about it across the board. It's not just us, but asking these other festivals, they're getting obscene numbers. And part of it is post-COVID, people finally getting their projects out there. But the writing and acting strikes, during that time, people decided to do other small independent projects. They're like, all right, we can't work, let's go do something. And so, yeah, some of these festivals like Indie Shorts down in Indianapolis, they get in 5,400 film submissions.
Cool.
Like crazy.
That's an
You know,
embarrassment.
I
of
think
riches.
this could be an opportunity for Jordan Dice. You know, you're going to have to come up with some way of getting people into the State Theater, and maybe it's independent films. When we were in New York City here last month, we went to see a 70 millimeter copy of Vertigo.
Wow.
And the theater was packed. There was not a single seat. You had to reserve your
See
seats
that on
ahead
the
of
big
time.
screen.
Yeah, it was
Awesome.
amazing. It was so much
That
fun to
warms
see.
my heart so much. that
Yeah.
People are still
Yeah.
showing up for like old Hitchcock films in
Yeah.
the theater and the experience, the whole
And,
experience.
you know, if the State Theater got a better sound system, because that's one of the issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find it every time we go
Absolutely.
to Hell's Half Mile. It's the sound is just
Yeah.
not
So
good
what-
enough.
Yeah, what it is this? Like, it's mainly the dialogue that
Yeah,
gets a
that's
little
what you
lost in there.
Yeah, you can't pick out the words. in the
And
dialogue.
it's unfortunate. It's a performance space before it's a theater. That, unfortunately. But I think if they bring in some sound techs that really do some research, and I don't know if changing where the speaker's at or how something
It's a
is
different
set up.
set of speakers nowadays. You kind of need the ones that kind of crawl down instead of one here and one here that
Yeah.
were really good in the day. You
Yeah.
kind of need the ones so it's multiple, all those frequencies hit in different areas more clear. It's,
Yeah, I don't know
it's
if they're
frequencies
worried
you
about
lose.
the architecture of the theater, that the speakers
be.
are somehow going to interfere with the the Aztec temple look, but they really, if you're going to make that theater work, it's got to have good sound.
And that's never been an issue at the court or the temple. Like anytime I've ever seen a film at either one of those theaters, I've never had the issue where I couldn't hear the dialogue.
What is it about the state?
Yeah, I don't know what it is
It's
either.
a problem there. Because I know during Hell's Half Mile, we always look forward to if we have a choice, we'll go to one of the other venues to see the movie rather than see it at the state, just because of that. As beautiful as the state is, again, that the sound isn't there, it ruins the movie.
Yeah, I always feel like when I go there, I just move around to make sure I'm in the right spot. For sound.
The sweet spot?
The sweet spot.
Sweet spot.
Kind of like going to a concert,
Yeah.
I want to be where the best sound is.
Are you going to, kind of share with where that sweet spot is at the
You know
state?
what? I like it.
You never found it.
No. You know what? Unfortunately it's different per film, but most of the time, it's directly in the middle, about 3/4 back on the main floor.
Oh, really?
That's where things, to me,
Because we usually try to
sound
sit
best.
toward the front, hoping that maybe
That's
we
where
can
I
hear it
like
a little bit better.
No.
But I like it the
No.
last row,
Yeah,
in
sit
the middle.
Yeah, I like the middle, about 3/4 the way back. I feel like where I get the best.
Okay.
Just where the overhang behind you is, just behind you or just in front of you?
Where I don't want to be. I want to be.
The balcony.
Yeah, right out in front of the.
In front of the balcony, right?
Not underneath.
Because when it hits that's
Right.
where I think it's losing the definition.
Yeah.
But being up there, you can hear a lot, but it's also got just consonants that die up there.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a strange spot.
I don't like to watch a movie from the balcony, though.
No. I
like
just
to
love the
be-
balcony. Yeah.
I like the balcony.
Do you? Okay. Yeah. I
uh,
guess to each their own.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we'll see what he does. It'd be cool to have
Yeah.
a sound system
Yeah,
brought
it
in,
would
though.
be-
Upgrade of the sound
know, he-
system
Well, he
somehow.
sounds like a
Utilizes-
guy who
Yeah.
willing to
And
put
he's
money
going to sell
into
the
it.
St. Lawrence stuff he has there. Great idea. Like
Yeah.
Cross merchandising, of course. That's so perfect.
Yeah, and it's your own stuff, even better. So
He even opened up a St. Lawrence in Midland, I think.
Well, it's at the mall.
The mall.
Yeah. And that was a chancy purchase. The way malls are going
yeah.
now. But I think he looked at it. It's so close to US 10, that maybe that makes it a little bit more of an easier mall to get to than look at the Bay City Mall. You have to drive quite a ways off the highway to
yeah.
get to the mall.
and Essex was even further out heading towards
Oh yeah,
Sea or Hampton. Yeah.
So that might be the reason why that mall is struggling so much.
Good luck to him. I hope he pulls it off. I hope he's
Yeah.
able to bring people back. Yeah.
So, I mean, first thing is, of course, the projector, but he's got the money for it, so I'm looking forward to see what happens.
Yeah,
there.
you hope he does it right. And
Yeah.
he gets some good advice and really turns that into a showplace, because it's absolutely beautiful. To think of that theater boarded up,
Mhm.
Right.
man.
Yeah.
And we actually had a couple of filmmakers that had been to the festival that actually had posted on their Facebook page the M Live articles. Like our friend Mark Covino, who did a band called Death. He's like, I love that theater. I love my film in that theater. So there was actually a few filmmakers that were kind of bummed out that the state was closed because they dug it. They dug it, especially having your film in a big theater like that
Right.
full of people. It's